This podcast is brought to you by Chief Dads. Chief Dads is for dads who need to drop 10 kilos or more, or just want to look into some lifestyle and training and health aspects of their life. I mean, realistically, in this current day and age that we're dealing with, if you just need to get some structure around your ISO life, for instance, you need some training at home, you need some nutrition ideas for at home and for you and the family, then that's what Chief Dads is all about. So if you guys wanted to hear more about Chief Dads, reach out to me via Instagram, or you can hit me up at matty@becomingabowhunter.com or matty@thechieflife.com. That's matty@becomingabowhunter.com. Via email, matty@becomingabowhunter.com. So if you are a dad that needs to drop 10 or more kilos or just wants to get their ass in gear, then reach out to me. Thanks heaps, guys. Hey there, and welcome to Becoming a Bowhunter. I'm your host, Matty, and join me and our guests as we take the quality of meat back into our own hands, searching the wild for free-ranged animals to harvest as ethically as we can. I interview a variety of specialists from the bow hunting community to help fast-track your journey as a bow hunter. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this chinwag on one of your favorite topics in the world, bow hunting. Bow hunters, what is up? Welcome back to another episode of Becoming a Bow Hunter. Pretty much, I was meant to be doing an episode with someone online and they did not rock up. So I am just going to do a little solo-sode based on my little rut recap from this year. And I mean, obviously, things are a bit bizarre this year, 2020, with the whole Rona going around and ISO life. So my hunt was cut a little shorter than what I wanted it to be based on pretty much had to get back and make sure things were happening all right here. The family ended up coming with me, so that was also a bit different to what we had originally intended. Ended up doing 4 days. It was pretty much like 3 days or 2 days with a morning and afternoon as well. So 3 days of hunting. And yeah, I had a really cool time, had a really good experience. To be honest, I was just thankful to be getting out. Like, I know so many people had massive plans to go out hunting this year for the rut or for the raw. And unfortunately, that was kind of taken away from them based on the circumstances that have happened right now. So I just felt, realistically, I had an overwhelming amount of gratitude just for the fact that I was even able to get out there, to be honest. So that was a good start. But I mean, pretty much got there, and as soon as I rocked up, my uncle was like, "Hey, we just literally heard something at the top of the hill." They went for a walk up there to see what it was, thinking that it might have been like an injured cow, and saw a deer kind of run over the hill. So that was a good sign straight away. But I'd never really kind of explored up there. And I just kind of kept my ears open for the rest of the time we were there. I was camping, and so I should have been able to hear them if they were roaring. But yeah, there was nothing that kind of pepped back up for the time that we were there. So I actually didn't bother going up that hill because where I've seen them previously, and based on last year when they were kind of up and about and going crazy during the raw, was in the back paddock. So I was like, hey, I'm going to go straight to where I know they have been previously, where they typically always are. As I think that's a better game plan because it's kind of the land that I know a little bit better. So I headed up there, and based on last year, I kind of thought, I think timing was a little bit different this year to last year as well. But last year, pretty much I got there and there was like 6 stags roaring on the mountain, and it was absolutely incredible. And so I kind of thought I'd get there and it'd be a similar experience. So I got out of my truck and kind of walked up the hill a little bit and was waiting. I think it was probably like a good hour before I even heard my first roar. So winds were a little bit funky. I kind of just decided, being that it was early morning, that I'd get up as far up the hill as I could. Because it's kind of like this big old back ridge that they all, I don't know, it's very thick back there. So I feel like they definitely hang out in there whenever it gets too much. And so I pretty much put myself up against that ridge as much as I could. So that was the game plan, pretty much. Get up as high as I could, try to get above the winds or work against the winds wherever I could. And I managed to do that, and I got on up, and it was probably, like I said, a good hour into it. And I was moving slow up the hill as well. Like I was glassing as I'd go. Like there's ridges either side of me, and I'd kind of jump from one side of the ridge to the other side of the ridge, making sure I wasn't putting myself at the top of the ridge just so they could see me if they were down the bottom of the hill. And so, being kind of cautious with it as I was going up the hill, and then finally started hearing some roars, which was cool. So got to hear little bits and pieces of them going off, and that's always exciting. And what I started doing was actually roaring back. And every time I'd give them a little roar, unfortunately, they would go quiet. But that's also a good lesson learnt, because they're... Yeah, I'll leave it there because I'll talk about that a little bit later as to what happened with that. So every time I'd roar, they'd go quiet. It'd be like a good 5 minutes before they would start to go again. So I was like, cool, I'm going to get closer, or as close as I can, and then I'm going to put off some hind calls instead. So that was my new game plan. I got in pretty much, I think it was like a ridge across from where they were, and I could hear them going pretty at it. So I was like, cool, when I get there, I'm going to start, once I was there, I started doing some hind calls. And as they would roar, I'd do a hind call, and they would respond pretty much straight away. So I kept at that. I'm like, I'm just going to find myself a good position, something like put something behind me, break up my outline. Had pretty much a really good shooting line, like pretty much down the hill shooting line. I got my rangey out. I pretty much checked out all the trees that are around me just to figure out how far everything was. And then I just kept calling. So this is all going down whilst I was calling. I chucked my video on, my GoPro on. It was recording for 17 minutes or thereabouts. No, it was actually 24 minutes. So I think it took about 17 minutes to get him in from the start of my recording. So that was me just constantly giving calls every minute or so, and him giving calls back as well. So with that, pretty much I just practiced based on the Bowhunt Down Under video of Adam Greentree just doing little hind calls. I'm like, cool, that's what I'm going to do. And so I just learned that, and I've been doing that kind of, even last year I knew how to do it, but didn't really utilize it at all last year. So this year I'm like, that's going to be my game plan, like use that as much as I can. So I just practiced, like every once in a while I'd give it a little whirl. And when I was standing on the side of the hill, I'm like, I don't even know if they're going to respond to this, but they started to. So it just gives you that confidence to kind of keep going. I'm like, great, this is awesome. Like, even if it doesn't sound like a hind, they're taking it in as if it's a hind. So that's perfect. That's the response that I needed. I wasn't sure once I was sitting there kind of waiting. I was like, is this taking too long? I'm like, no, you need to just be patient. So hung out, and sure enough, 15 minutes later, these two hinds walked up the hill next to me, probably at like 100 meters or so. And I was kind of like, oh no, are they going to spot me, or what's going to go on? I'm in full camo, so they just kind of kept walking, kept doing their own little merry thing. And all of a sudden, I see him just run down the bottom of this valley, and he's just running straight across in front of me. He'd probably be a good 120 meters, maybe a little bit more at this stage. And he just kind of keeps going across in front of me and keeps going further and further away from me. And if he has to go up this hill, and if he gets to the top of that hill, he's going to be side onto me. He's pretty much going to hit my wind straight away. So as he starts to run up the hill, I'm like, oh, he's going to miss me completely. So I gave him another little hind call, and he just changed direction, boom, straight at me, ran straight up to me. And you guys might have seen the video on my Instagram about this, my little Instagram TV. So he came literally straight to me. He's at about probably 15 meters. I draw back. He comes all the way into 8 meters, and he stops right in front of me. The only issue is that there's this little shrub bush between me and him. And so he's sitting there. He's not really sure what's going on. I'm sitting there, and it feels like forever. When you watch back the video, it's not. It's like a minute. So I'm at full draw, just kind of holding, and he's just stood there. He's not doing anything. He's just kind of like, there's something there. I don't know what it is. I don't really know what to do. And so he just stood there just staring at me. And realistically, I should have had a bit more patience. I should have waited for him to make the first move and kind of trot off a little bit or move a little bit. but there was this V in the tree, and I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna shoot through the tree. Like I'm gonna take. I had to lean a fair way, so I leant all the way to the side, had him perfectly in my sight, and I'm like, great, I'm gonna shoot. Got it on. It would have been a front shot, so got it on where I thought was the perfect shot for it, and I took my shot and it hit the tree. So what I didn't really equate for was the fact that where the arrow actually shoots from, even though my sight was on, where the arrow's actually shooting from is just a little bit lower, and that was going to smack bang straight in based on how close I was to that little shrub bush. So you know how before I said I had a perfect shooting line, that was if he didn't keep running up the hill. So that's where everything kind of went completely pear-shaped. And so I took my shot, and he trotted off maybe 20, 30, 40 meters, something like that, and then started coming up the hill, and he was still just curious. He's like, what the hell is that? So I gave him another little call, and he just kind of kept looking at me. He's like, oh, there's definitely something there. And he stood like perfectly broadside to me, and I was like, yes, okay, I'm going to take another shot. So I drew back, lined up what I thought was 30 meters. I'm like, this is great. Took a shot, and it fell pretty much at his feet. I was like, oh, you've got to be shitting me. So I think he would have been about 40 meters or thereabouts, plus he was up the hill. So it kind of just, it quickly fell apart. And then I saw him kind of running up the hill a little bit more. There was another boy roaring just over the hill. And I was like, oh, maybe I've just ruined him right now. I'm just going to let him kind of sit. Plus, I'm not confident shooting out to like 50 or more meters. And especially when he's so aware, like that's just perfect territory for him to drop and miss the arrow, I guess. Like, yeah. So I just kind of left him. I left him. He just kind of walked up the hill, and I started on my way of doing some hind calls again, hoping that he might come back. And nothing happened. He kind of walked over the hill, and that was about it. That was about all that happened. So I started letting off some roars again, and nothing. Yeah, from there, that was like kind of the morning done. Like I eventually walked over the hill to try find him, and there was no sign of him anymore. The other ones went completely quiet after all of that. And that was at about 8:30, so it was heating up anyway, and that's when I've found typically they tend to go pretty quiet. So I think going back on that, like I've had some talks about it, and I've had some tips on that one as well. So obviously, don't shoot through trees. That's a good point. I think realistically, I just need to have a little bit more patience in that situation. Like wait until he'd come around either side of that tree, and that would have been obviously the smarter option to go for. When it comes to what could have been done differently, I'd been told about with the hinds, based on wherever they're walking, if you can put yourself right on their trail, pretty much, you're bound to get some stags walk through that trail as well because of the smells that the hinds are putting out. And this guy was only young. Like all of the deer I saw of that weekend were young. And so it kind of, I think that's a really cool point. That's something I'd never really heard of before. Is it makes a lot of sense that the girls let off the smell. The boys want to follow the smell of the girls. They'll kind of check on the girls to see where they are, and they'll do like little loops of them and bits and pieces. And so I should have, that's another tactic, I guess, that I could have potentially done, is once I'd seen the girls, is kind of follow up to them. The thing is that I literally saw the girls, and then within 30 seconds saw him, and he was coming straight up for me. So I was like, hey, that's great. I guess once I'd stuffed that stalk, though, what I potentially should have done is gone over and sat off of where the girls were. I actually never even went looking for the girls because I kind of thought, hey, that sound of everything that just went on then potentially has just scared everything off in that little region. And so that was kind of that situation done. Like that was kind of that morning's hunt done. And so I kind of kept walking around, and I think, I can't remember if it was that day or a little bit later, but I found where they had been wallowing as well. And so that was really cool. And I think it was actually, you know what? I think I went down, I was looking for a wallow, and it was not where I thought it was going to be based on where I thought I'd seen one previously. And as I was kind of walking back around, I literally got just back to where my car was. And as I was just about to walk, I was probably like 200 meters from the car, I heard a roar just kind of up the hill. I'm like, are you freaking serious? It was on the inside of the paddock compared to on the outside where they usually are, like up in the ridge side. And I was like, no way. So I started to sneak in, and it was just super high grass. And he sounded like he was pretty far away. But I think what happened is we started walking in towards each other as that went down. So I literally walked into about 50 meters on him with a tree behind, like on either side of us. I took a step out, and he was just looking straight at me. He just barked and just honked at me, honk, 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 nonstop. And I kind of like tried to trek around him and try to get up on top of him, and it just never worked. He got well and truly away from me because I was obviously too noisy and not stealthy enough for that guy. So that was kind of the second situation undone, unfortunately. And I don't think there would have been a shot opportunity at all, even if I was to, like, because he was looking at me as I stepped out. Obviously, an aware deer at 50 meters is I don't know. Some people might take that really quite easily. But for me as a new hunter on the deers, it was not looking great for me. So I was kind of like, hey, you know what? I might just kind of chill on that. So that afternoon, this has all happened in one day. That afternoon, I got back out, and I was literally just walking in. So it's kind of like the ridge. You walk up the ridge and then you drop down into a paddock, or you can kind of keep on the ridge line and stay all the way around, and it goes like a big U. It's kind of like two big U's, I guess, that join up. So I kind of went up the middle of them, more like a W, I guess, if you were to look at it. I kind of went up the middle of it and dropped into the second U, a side that I hadn't even been into yet. And so I started walking down the hill, and literally, as I was going, just kind of glassing and doing bits and pieces. And as I literally walked into like this clear part, there was just this deer on the side, and he was just walking straight to me. And we were almost too close for me to be able to do anything. So I knew that if I took a step either way, my movement would just catch his eye, and he would be able to find me, like run away from me straight away. So I ended up just squatting down, and stupidly squatted down on my toes. So feet aren't flat on the ground, just squatting down on your toes. And that's definitely something I wouldn't recommend if you're planning on being there for a long amount of time. I reckon I was probably there for a good 4 to 5 minutes. And you just start to definitely get a little bit tired on the legs doing that. And he kind of kept walking up the hill towards me, and then eventually we came eye to eye at probably 20 meters. He's just standing there looking at me for a good minute or two. And then eventually he kind of like, nah, there's something up there, and he honked and ran away, jumped over the fence, and kind of ran up the hill towards me a little bit more. So I stood up, and I just took a step into a little bit more of the a little bit more into the thick of it all. When I say thick of it all, there's like one thin tree next to me. And so I stood with that on my back, pretty much looking at him. And he's like, nah, there's definitely something there. So he honked. And something I didn't mention is he had like a bit of a long head. So he had one really cool antler, like one proper antler. And then he had one that was like, I don't know, it's like it was missing the top part. So it had the bottom almost U, and it's almost like all of the stuff that was meant to be at the top had been pushed to the back and had been flattened out. So it was a complete mong head. And I had pretty much thought that if I was, I don't know, I was like, surely that's just a bad genetics thing. From talking to some people, they did say that it can happen during velvet. So during velvet, they can do something like, for instance, fight or something like that, and it can change the way that their antlers grow. But within saying that, I don't know. I think I've typically heard that it is genetics thing. So if you're listening to this and you know of whether it's genetics or whether it does happen from the velvet stage, or if it can do both, then I'd love to know. Based on what you guys have heard. But pretty much he kind of ran up the hill, and he was out of sight, but he was still close. And he's honking at me. He just keeps honking, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to give him a little hind call. So I started giving him hind calls, and he turned his honk into a roar. So he'd be like, hoo, roar. Obviously a little bit differently, but he'd give me that. And I was like, what the heck? So I kept hind calling him, and he just kept doing it. He'd honk for one or two, roar again, then he'd honk. He was just obviously so confused. His mong head got him good. So he was sitting on this hill, or like, he's up on this hill, Standing there, I'm like, eventually he's going to move off on me, I'm sure. 10 minutes later, he's still doing the same thing, still honking at me, still roaring at me. I'm like, you know what? This is a perfect opportunity for me to try to sneak out of here, come completely around him, and see if I can get a shot opportunity on him. So I did just that. I creeped on out, and to start with, I was like literally on the thickest, crunchiest stuff you could be on. I thought I'd just ruined it straight away. But I was like, you know what, it's worth a shot. So I did that, jumped on in, climbed on out of it, and went around the ridge. Pretty much had to go over got out of that ridge and jumped over a few ridges, and then came back over the top of where I thought he would be. And I literally landed right on top of him. I was like, oh, wow, I couldn't have planned that better. And he just laid down. He was laying down, looking in that same direction, waiting for either a smell or some noises or something to come from it. And I was like, wow, this is perfect. Like, I think I need to mention it was, once again, up where I was, it was crunchy. Like, it was cornflakes everywhere. And so every single step that I took was loud. It was noisy. And I was in volleys, which is very similar to wearing socks, I do find. And so literally every single step that I'd take. And so my first thought was, can I stalk in on him? And I didn't trust that based on what the flooring was. So I kind of ruled that out. My second thought was, obviously I need to get into a position and see if I can hind call him up, see what happens. So there was this big set of rocks off to the side. I kind of jumped in them, and I just completely lost sight of him. I'm like, oh, I don't really feel confident in taking it, like in calling him up, and then all of a sudden knowing if he's there or not, like without being able to see him. So stupidly, I was like, you know what, I'm going to use the ridge as my back. Like, I'll hide over one side of the ridge, and I'll call him, and so he'll come up and completely come over the ridge, and then I'll be able to get my shot on. And so I was like, I'm sure I'll have enough time. I kind of had a tree off to the side of me, and I was like, I'm sure I'll have enough time once I call him to kind of get everything happening. So I called him. He didn't hear. Called him again, and he just hops up, looks like head turned towards me, hops up straight away, gave him one more call. He's like licking his lips and just starts charging towards me. And I'm talking like he came in fast. He was probably 80 meters away. I reckon it took him, I don't know, he was there in seconds. And there's kind of like, he was on one part. He had to go under a dip, under another dip, and then up to me. And that was like, boom, he was done. He was there. And so I saw his antlers coming up the hill. I'm like, fuck. So I quickly drew back, had him set and ready, like not even set and ready. I had it my pins kind of in the position where I thought I needed to be sight-wise. He came over the hill, saw me, ran straight back down the hill. I'm like, God freaking damn it. So I hopped up, and he stood there. He just stood there at about, he was actually at 25 meters. So I was already at full draw, so I kind of just looked over the hill, saw he was sitting there. I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to try to take it. So I kind of just edged my way over the ridge a little bit until I could get my eyes on. I lined him up, and then I took the shot at what I thought. I was like, hey, I'm going to go 30 meters. Like, that's where he looks like he is roughly. So I took my shot 30 meters, and I haven't actually watched the footage back. It's on my GoPro. I need to do that, and I'll probably do that straight after this little podcast. But the 30-meter shot completely missed. I don't know what happened. After talking to some people, they said, look, he's probably ducked the string, to be honest. Like, he'd probably taken the shot. He's probably ducked like 30 meters. That's enough to be a high shot if you were to hit him, and he didn't know you were there. But the fact that he knew you were there, he's probably ducked the string completely. You've lost your arrow over the top of him, and that's it. He's just gone. And so he ran out probably to about 80 meters from there, back to almost where he was, and he's just kind of sitting there looking at me. He starts honking again, and then he runs off around the side of the ridge, and he just kind of kept honking all his way, or like as he was running on his merry way away from me. And so I spent ages trying to find my arrow, and I couldn't find my arrow. I was looking for blood. I was like, surely. And so I watched the video back on my GoPro. I'm like, no, it's definitely missed. It's gone over the top. I didn't really, because with the GoPro, you can't, or my variation, you can't slow it down, unfortunately. So it was a bit of a mess trying to watch it on the GoPro, trying to find the position, and trying to get the rundown on what had happened. And by that stage, it was pretty much close to nightfall, and I was like, you know what, I don't think things are really going to happen for me from here on out. So I kind of called it from there. And so I went on home, And I think the next morning was when I got on out, and this is obviously coming into the day before I have to leave. And so I decided to kind of do the same thing that I'd done the day before, get to the top of the ridgeline. So I got on up there, and it was dead quiet. Like, I don't know if I'd scared everything off or what. The winds were a little bit worse this day, which means it was blowing across the hill even more. And so I was like, are things good? Are things bad? Like, have I stuffed up here or not? I'll just try to get to the top and kind of see the same thing try happen again. So I got to the top, and pretty much there was, I think I heard like one or two roars that morning. I was like, okay, cool, they are still about. And so it gave me my confidence again. I started heading over that way. And I got to this one point where it sounded like the boys were a little bit lower, and I kind of got to this ridge, and I was like, cool, I can kind of keep cutting around, which meant that I had to have the wind in my back as I was walking across that next ridge to be able to get over the other side of where they were, and they were lower down, so my wind wasn't going to get to them. And as I was planning on doing that, kind of sitting at the top of the ridge, there's two hinds, and I think it was the exact same two hinds I saw the day before, and they were on the wall, literally across from where I was, and they just saw me or smelt me and just made their little merry way up the hill. Once again, I didn't know that right then was a really good time to go and sit off of where they had been like pretty much from where they'd been standing, and kind of just wait and see if any boys had come through. But now that I know that, that's obviously a good tip for next time, and for anyone who's still out and about doing their ruts. So for me, pretty much that really got me. I was like, God damn it, things are just not working out today. And that wind it was in my back, and it was just blowing straight across that gully. I'm like, if I've got any chance of doing anything here, I don't think that's going to be the way I should do it. So I made my way right to the very top of the hill and started walking down the ridge back to pretty much the side where I'd seen that mong head again. And so I was right in the back end of that paddock, so I walked all the way down. And as I was walking down, I got to a bit of a careless stage, I think, because it was so noisy and I was coming down this hill, and I was like, you know what, like there's just no making this quiet. And I had about probably like 100 meters to go. I'm like, I'm just going to get down this reasonably quickly. Like, I'll still try to be quiet, but it was like steep, and you're taking steps that are, no matter what you do, it's crunching and it's loud. So I started walking down this hill, and as I get to about probably 40 meters from the bottom of this hill, this spiker just takes off in front of me. Boom, hops up, runs out in front of me. Stops. He jumped the fence, so stops, and he's kind of looking at me. He's probably about 80 meters or something at this point. He gets really curious, and he's like, "Oh, there's something there. I don't know what it is." So I just sat down. He's like, "There's something there." Like his young curiosity kind of got the best of him, I think. So he started coming right towards me. Still just very aware, like there's something there. And I was in the stage then where I was like, "Oh, I don't think I should hind call him or do anything to him." In hindsight, I should have done something. Like I should have done some form of hind call or something, I think, because he was so curious. I reckon he would have actually come in closer to me at least. So he came around this big fallen tree, jumped the fence, and kind of kept on his way along and away from me. And it was just unfortunate. I think I should have done something a little bit sooner. I was like, I'll let him kind of duck off, and then I'll get in and around him, and then I'll maybe give some hind calls. But by that stage, he would have definitely picked up my win. So it was kind of a stupid plan from the start. I think what I realistically should have done is just give him some hind calls, and I reckon his curiosity would have got the best of him and would have come straight back into me. I would have been able to take a shot down the hill, but that's hindsight, hey? Like, whether it would have happened or not, that's all just speculation. So from there, it came on to the last day. I was like, fuck, well, realistically, it was a meat trip. That was the goal of this trip. And my auntie and uncle said, do you want to take the rifle out for the last day? And I was like, heck, why not? May as well try. So I took the rifle out. It's only a 222. They have knocked deer over with it before. So I was like, you know what? I may as well take it out and see if I've got any shot of doing this. And got up to the top. Not even to the top. I kind of got to where the winds were feeling all right, and I made my way up through the middle of the ridge, the ridge where on the right-hand side of the W, if you can imagine that, and made my way up through the middle. Once again, it was completely quiet, no noises whatsoever. Like it was eerie that morning. Like the birds were quiet, everything was quiet. It was just it was quite an odd morning, and I decided just to walk my whole way across. I actually think I'd gone left first. I think I went into the left completely and looked over it, and then I was like, you know what, it's time to go over to where that wallow is. So I went completely to the right-hand side, and I walked as far as I could to the fence line pretty much. And as I was doing that, I found like this whole new space where I hadn't actually seen yet, where there's like this little wonderland, like this creek and everything. And so I dropped into that space and found all this sign of deer, like hoof prints everywhere. I actually found myself another little antler, and it was literally like this little magical little wonderland compared to what the rest of the paddock looks like, with it being like thick scrub and stuff. So I was kind of like, I don't know, I thought it was really cool. It was really cool to kind of find that space, and I was in a bit of a daze coming out of that. This is pretty late in the morning then. And I came out of this part, and I'm like, okay, well, there's this open clearing right here. I need to get over this hill, and then that's where the wallow is. So I started walking straight out into this open clearing. Sure enough, stupid me, I should have glassed, because that was actually where the wallow was. And the guy, I'm pretty sure it's the same guy that I first had the encounter with, the little guy that I had up face to face with me at about 8 meters with the tree. He jumps up and runs off up the hill. I'm like, are you freaking serious? So I kind of just chilled out for a little bit, watched where he went, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to make my way across and across from where we were, and then head up towards him. So I started doing that, and as I'm walking across, he's just standing there looking at me from up the hill, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take a shot. So I got on down on the ground. I put my pack down. I got the rifle out. He's probably sitting at about 400 meters or thereabouts. It just shows how much I know about firearms. I loaded the chamber, laying down on the ground with the pack. It wasn't working, so I'm like, fuck it, I'm going to sit up. So I sat up with my knee. I pretty much made my new stable point. I've put him in the scope, had him perfectly. I'm like, this is going to be great. So I took my shot, and big bang, nothing happened. And obviously, for those who know firearms well, a 222 is not going to shoot 400 meters. It's probably going to start to drop at about 200 meters or thereabouts. So stupidly, I had no idea. I didn't talk to my auntie or uncle about that firearm. I didn't talk to, I have no understanding of them. I've shot guns before, that's about it. And so that was pretty much it. He kind of stood around. He actually just stood there and looked at me. And I was like, oh, either I moved a lot, or that's definitely out of range for this gun. And so I didn't actually think to take another shot with the scope aimed higher above him, because I didn't know how much higher I had to be aiming or anything like that. And it kind of just felt, I think, a bit unresponsible of me. So he eventually kind of just made his way over the hill. He's like, you know what, I'm done. So he walked up and over the hill, and I was like, okay, now's the time. So I kind of trekked up that hill as quick as I could, got into that next ridge. And as I was walking into the ridge, he'd spotted me. As soon as I got over that hill, he was like waiting for me, I guess, to see if something was following him. And at this point, we're a lot closer. We're probably 80 meters or thereabouts. But unfortunately, because he was so aware, he just literally up and ran over the next hill. I'm like, fuck, okay, well, I'll try it again. So I got up to the next hill, made it a lot more calm, like as I approached the ridge, I guess I should say, so I wasn't making a whole heap of noise, and got up over the top, and he was nowhere to be seen. I kind of trekked around the hills for another good half hour or so. And, unfortunately, there was nothing. I sat down, I gave some hind calls in a different space, and that was pretty much it. That was pretty much the end to my rut. So I think, realistically, there was a lot of really good things that came out of it, meaning I gained a lot of confidence in my hind calls, which is great. I gained a fair bit of confidence in my roaring abilities, which was good. I gained a lot of confidence in how close I can get to animals as well. And I also learnt a lot around, obviously, patience, as we always learn with bow hunting. Also, I think in regards to positioning yourself, one of obviously the biggest thing is make sure you've always got something breaking up your outline. And it's funny because I've heard this before, I've learnt this before, yet I still thought because he's coming over the ridge, he'll be eyes in a different position. But he literally, that old boy was running, or that monghead was running straight to me. There was no stopping him. So I obviously transitioning, throwing your calls as well. So when you're doing the hind call, placing your hand up and throwing it in another direction, something I realized later is that I was literally doing my hind call straight at him because he was straight in my line of sight. So I was doing my calls directly at him, thinking, because the wind was actually quite strong in my face too, I was like, to be able to get him to come to where I need to throw it at him. So I did that and it didn't work straight away. So I did it louder in the same position. And of course, he's going to come straight to the place where he thinks the deer are. And so that's obviously another thing, is throwing your calls in a space near you, but not directly where you are. And you do that just by placing your hand up in front of your mouth and doing it to one side, make a little curve, throw it so the sound essentially goes to the other side. And that was something that it was another little learning point for me. So I don't know, there was a lot of big takeaways that weekend for me. Unfortunately, still haven't got a red deer down with the bow, and the battle does continue, and it will continue as long as it takes. I'm very, very eager to get one down. Very keen on it. I mean, obviously, I think maybe I put a lot of pressure on myself, but at the same time, I think it's a good goal. It's a great goal. To be able to get out and chase those guys is a lot of fun. I'm learning a lot while I'm doing it. I feel like once I get to the stage of actually knocking one over, it's going to make hunting other deer a lot easier as well, potentially. I'm really keen to go out and get some fallow. And once the borders kind of open back up, I plan on going on another paid trip down to, down to a hunting property if I can. Hopefully in the near future. But right now, whilst ISO life is still going on, we don't really know what the dealio is. So I had originally planned to kind of have 7 days out at the hills hunting, and then if I needed it, to have as many weekends as I could, apart from the Easter weekend, which we were meant to be going up to up to the middle of Queensland to Springshaw, where I was going to go out pig hunting as well. So I had this almighty grand plan to get out and get bulk animals down this season, and unfortunately, it kind of did not happen. Not due to lack of opportunities, but due to maybe lack of experience, but at the same time, due to obviously the coronavirus going down. Like I said at the start, I'm just very thankful that I actually got out, because unfortunately, I know of a lot of people who had booked their red hunts that were traveling interstate that just had no option but to cancel it, based on borders closing, based on losing work, based on all of that hoo-ha that's going on right now. So, if you guys did get out, if you were fortunate enough to get out and about, and you've had some awesome experiences, you've had an awesome rut, then I think that is awesome. I think that's absolutely incredible. I'm so happy for you guys. For those people who did have to cancel, my heart does go out to you, because obviously I think there's a lot more to hunting than obviously grabbing meat. The mental state that it puts us in, the way it makes you feel, the rejuvenation that it gives you is huge. And I think that unfortunately a lot of people have missed out on that this year. I just hope there's not too long until they get to relive that feeling again, because I think realistically, with this pandemic going on, the things we need to look out for is actually not necessarily the coronavirus itself, but actually the state that it's going to put us in afterwards. I've seen some pretty interesting stats, some stats coming out saying around, it's like high percentages based on, it's pretty much that when you're unemployed, it creates more stress for the body. So therefore, all-cause death comes on a lot easier. So mortality rates go up, and they reckon that in America alone, based on the facts of, I think it's close on 16 million people have lost their jobs at the moment, that within the next year or two, they're going to see an extra 600,000 deaths based on what this stat pretty much shows on unemployment and how it can create extra death causes, essentially. I think the mental state in general in people is going to go down if it has not already. I think a lot of us have probably already dealt with struggles and had to work through that. I mean, it's something that we've been actually hired for as a company to go out and talk to people about as well, like going as a wellness program and say like, hey, these are the things that we would do to set up some form of structure around making sure that your day-to-day doesn't just fall apart if you are now working from home. A lot of people have work just as per usual. Like there's still people building. There's still people like doing their like butchers. There's still people working at the depots. There's still a lot of stuff that's just work as per usual, life as per usual, with a few things implemented. Like make sure you space yourself out, which you guys all know, but yeah, it's just obviously very interesting times for anyone who has been affected. And I mean, realistically, my business has been affected majorly. We pretty much lost all of our wellness in the workplace stuff. We were running all of the yoga for Virgin. And so that's obviously just been scrapped completely because they're down to 20% workforce. So I don't know if they're going to survive. Like there's companies like that you would think, oh, yeah, they're on top of the world. But like Virgin Australia, it's a question right now as to are they going to survive through this? And you think about how many employers would lose work over that as well. Like it is pretty hefty times, and I think there's a lot going on. And unfortunately, I don't know that us staying inside this whole time is gonna help the situations. I think there's other things we could be doing, but that's my opinion. And if you've got something different, then that's cool. Like that's your opinion as well. And yeah, I think it does create good conversations. Unfortunately, it creates some pretty aggressive conversations as well. Like people get incredibly passionate to it because it does affect everyone right now. And I think that's just obviously the state of what it is and where it's at. Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to stop rambling. This is the end of it, crew. So if you're not getting out, I hope you get out soon. If you have got out, I'm really stoked for you. I've been seeing some really cool photos. I've been seeing a lot of really cool bucks. I haven't seen a whole heap of great red deer as of yet in regards to bulk photos. I did see one that Jack Spinks knocked down, and that was an absolute beast. It was huge. Big old set of antlers. So yeah, I don't know. If you've got some red photos, send them on in. If you've got any photos, send them on in. I'd love to see them. But team, that's it for me. Thanks heaps. That wraps up this week's episode. Thank you so much for joining us, team. If you did have any topics, questions, or you wanted to suggest a guest for Becoming a Bowhunter, you can send me an email at matty@becomingabowhunter.com. If you're enjoying the show or you've enjoyed in particular episodes, please do me a solid and share it around with your friends. If you are not already, please hit the subscribe button, as the more subscribers we get, the higher the podcast gets ranked, and that definitely helps out for showing it to other individuals. If you are not already following me on Instagram, it's at becomingabowhunter.podcast, and on YouTube, it's Becoming a Bowhunter. Get out, team, fling some arrows, get that practice in, and walk those yards in the paddocks until you find those critters. That is it for now, but not the last time that you'll hear from Becoming a Bowhunter.